You know what else is heresy, chaps? Lads in tweed jackets cosplaying as theologians while offering hot takes on progress from the safety of a mahogany study, sipping Earl Grey like it's sacramental wine. The real heresy is this: using the language of tradition to spiritualize your discomfort with a world that no longer centers you. You talk about progressivism like it's a theological virus, an ideological heretic that snuck into the temple and overturned your precious cultural altar. But let me offer you a slightly less self-flattering view. Maybe progressivism didn't steal your God. Maybe it just stopped waiting for your permission to act like justice matters. Ben Cobley and his Oxford-flavoured echo chamber want to wax lyrical about how progressivism is just Christianity with the God part. Amputated. Cute. And you know what? You're halfway there. If you squint hard enough, you can see the structure of Christian eschatology in a lot of modern moral movements. But here's the kicker. That's not a bug, it's a feature. Christianity invented the idea that the poor, the meek, the outcast matter, that suffering isn't just accidental, it's morally meaningful. The fact that black folks, queer folks, disabled folks, the historically silenced and scapegoated, are now telling their stories with something resembling theological seriousness doesn't mean they hijacked Christianity. It means they're finally being heard over the static of centuries of polite sermons that never once rattled the pews of the powerful. And then, oh, the pearl clutching. You say progressivism is a religion now, complete with martyrs, sacraments, and saints. That's not an insight, it's a coping mechanism. Because when George Floyd became a global symbol of injustice, the problem wasn't that he was troubled or had a criminal record. The problem was that the system didn't care until he was dead. But instead of confronting that horror, you'd rather scoff at the style of activism, as though social change is just bad liturgy. Honestly, reducing someone's death to an aesthetic choice in a theological parody is the kind of intellectual dishonesty that only passes for wisdom when it's dressed up in the Queen's English and peppered with Latin. Let's talk about this replacement of God with history trope for a second. You say progressives believe that history will judge their enemies. But isn't that rich, coming from the same circles that used to brand people heretics and witches in the name of divine providence? History, my dear gentleman, is not a jealous God. It's a ledger. And you're simply outraged that people are now comparing receipts. You're not mad about theology. You're mad about accountability. You're not defending the sacred. You're defending the comfortable fiction that you've always been on the side of the angels. Also, spare me the concern about relentless compassion toward the outsider, as if that's some bleeding heart indulgence imported from Tumblr. That was literally Jesus' entire deal. Your problem isn't that the Church of England is too progressive. Your problem is that the Church remembered the part of the gospel that was never written for empire. You want the architecture of Christianity without the tenets. What you've both constructed is less a critique of modern ideology and more of a confessional booth for nostalgic intellectuals who want to absolve themselves from engaging with a world they no longer understand. You treat progressive morality like a theological knockoff, when really it's just the moral arc of the universe bending out of your reach. You don't want history to judge you because deep down you know it already has. And it wasn't kind. So next time you feel the need to lecture the world about heresy, take a long look in the mirror. You're not prophets. You're not high priests. You're just scribes trying to redact the gospel of change before too many people learn to read it for themselves.